Right, nice to see you. Welcome to our next panel, Who Moved My Marketing Budget? Our host is Bernhard Fleischer from Bernhard Fleischer Moving Images. Hello. And his panelists are Per Hauber, Senior Vice President at Sony Classical International, and Stefanie Suren from Deutsche Welle, Culture and Society.
Good afternoon, everybody. Whoever joins and comes in late, please move as close as you can so that we can address you with questions or, questions really. So let's talk, let's talk marketing today. When you look at the avant-premiere catalog of this year and the previous years, there's a lot of production in video for television, for all other forms of the screen, being it the computer screen or the cinema screen or all of them. And I would suspect, and that's a theory, and I please comment on it later, that maybe 10 to 20% would have the potential to be seen by more people. Would perform potentially better in the market if there would be a streamlined effort or an enhanced cooperation among the co-production partners or distribution partners. And this afternoon, what I want to do, or what we want to do here, is to look at the instruments of marketing, the classical instruments, which are, of course, the product itself, classical advertising, press and promotion, and distribution. And the new ways that are popping up, or have been popping up, or working quite well, is the social media activities that are done sometimes well, and sometimes not so well. So that is the basic framework of this afternoon. On my panel, we will not make a round of introduction. I will address the panelists, and we'll start with Stefanie Suren. She's the deputy head of the biggest department of DWTV, which is dealing with it's called Kultur und Familie, isn't it? No? Kultur und Gesellschaft, even more. Culture and Society, and they do all kinds of programs, news-related programs, but also cultural, and for the last 10 years, and prior to that, but enhanced in the last 10 years, music programs. So I wanted to ask you, your experience in the house. Where are the complications when you start out to decide to make a program? What are the parameters that you do it? And what are, in your case, the efforts to let it perform very well in the international as possible market?
Well, thanks for that very charming introduction, Bernhard. He's right. I work for the Department of Culture, briefly, for DW, Germany's international broadcaster. And we've got 9 TV shows in our department on a range of classical topics, pop music, classical music, movies, what have you. And we've also been, over the last few years, producing documentaries, also on a range of topics, classical music being one of them. And when it comes to, starting such a project, the main object that we always have to brace is money, basically, the funds, because Deutsche Welle is funded by taxpayers' money, so our budget is quite limited, and we're quite limited in what we're sort of allowed or supposed to put the money in. So we've got loads of great ideas that we want to see in a documentary, but we have problems funding these documentaries on the scale that we want to fund them. So our way of starting off when we've got an idea is to find a partner to work with, someone who shares our interest in the product, who is interested in producing a high-level quality, say, classical documentary, but who's got maybe different interests when it comes to marketing or selling that documentary. We broadcast worldwide via satellite. We've got 4 channels where we broadcast in 6 different languages in TV. So we're always interested in having a high-level film to broadcast on our television services. And we try to find partners who will put in their money to, who are, for example, interested in getting the DVD rights or the cinema rights. So that's sort of the first step that we take.
I've seen you putting money aside for marketing efforts, I have to say. This is something which doesn't happen very often, but I've seen you or your department to say, well, now the film is made, and we often have the problem, we scratch the monies and the funds together to make a high class and a very high quality program, and then nothing is left to put it out there. But I've seen you doing it, and can you tell us a little bit more out of the Nähkästchen, as the Germans say, what you did and how you do it, especially the presentation of it, and for especially movie premieres and stuff.
Well, our main marketing instrument to start off basically is the brand DW. We always try to further establish DW. It's known worldwide as a source of reliable information, in-depth news and features. But our main marketing instrument is that we try to associate ourselves only with productions as sort of main partner or co-partner that are very high level, so that whenever someone sees DW, they know that they can expect reliable and high quality content, basically. So that's the first thing that we do. The next thing, I think when it comes to marketing, there's always room for improvement, especially for a television company that's not commercial but funded by the taxpayers. We are quite limited also in how much money we can put into the marketing. So I personally think that there's always room for improvement there. But what we do with the limited funds we have is that, again, we try to find partners who will help us promote our product and who maybe have more commercial means and funds to do so. We also like to use the internet, of course, because that's a way of reaching our audiences worldwide. We try to use social media, so we might have, for example, we have a movie that's just premiered last week about the German rock band The Scorpions, quite a major production. And for that movie, of course, we created a website that would be interesting to fans, but we also try to broadcast everything that there was to know about this movie in advance, the website and everything, via Facebook, because we've got quite a close connection to our viewers worldwide on Facebook. So what we noticed was when we started posting information about the film, that was liked by many fans of the Scorpions, and then there was sort of a big wave of virality through the internet where we got loads and loads of clicks on the website. So that's one instrument that has worked quite well for us in the past.
And also because it's rather cheap.
Of course.
Per Vice President, Sony Classical, when you decide to participate in a video program rather than a CD or audio-only program, what are the parameters for the decision? Pretty much similar question than for Stephanie. And is the marketing efforts for that program linked to an overall strategy that you have for your exclusive artists appearing in the program? Or does it vary from time to time and from project to project?
Well, first of all, the biggest difference here is that we're not funded by taxpayers, and we just, each project has to make sense on a profit and loss basis. So our biggest effort is really to make a project successful money-wise at the end of the day. But the goal that we have is that to work with our exclusive artists and to break them, as we call them, to make them be the best partner they can have to become a real star. And so this is actually our biggest marketing goal, to go along many years the way with people like Lang Lang or Jonas Kaufmann or other people, other artists you might know wouldn't have that career that they have right now without a major record company heavily investing in them. And that starts with not only with the recording of the music, but also with photo shootings and distribution of product, and then definitely also a lot of promotion work that's been done for these artists globally. And a video product, whatever that is, a 5-minute film or a 60-minute documentary or a live broadcast of a concert, Since we have the exclusive rights audio and video-wise, we are involved in all of these projects, and we want to make sure that the quality of the product is in line with the overall strategy that we have with the artists. And in classical music, and especially in opera, you have to plan 3, 4, sometimes 5 years in advance. So we like to work with people who share the same quality approach. And we had a wonderful product together with Deutsche Welle last year, with Lang Lang, where we think, okay, this is in line with what the artist wants, what we want, and that overall is a big marketing package. So I wouldn't really go down to say marketing is just about advertising product or anything. It really starts with the A&R, with what we actually want to achieve with the artist step by step. So I believe that these days we can't just record an album without any marketing tool. That's a term we use all the time. I hate it. I have to find another one soon. But without any other marketing tool that could be video around that production, because with people like Lang Lang or Jonas, or even also Placido Domingo, people we work, or Yo-Yo Ma, just to record a disc is just not enough anymore. And I believe it wasn't 20 years ago. There needs to be much more stuff around it, and a video product and a long documentary about the reason why we're doing this album is one way, and a very good way, because out of the product you can take 30-second clips, you can take 5-minute clips, you can, I don't know, you can do a lot of stuff that all leads into the overall project that then goes on for the artist also with a tour maybe, or with other interests he or she might have in terms of the foundation that they have. They also work on the same repertoire, and the film and the album will always be the center of the project that they work on for sometimes more than a year.
May I add something? I think the example that Per Hauber just quoted, which was, I think, the production, the highest level with Lang Lang, that's a very good example, because you've got one partner, which in this case was Sony, with Lang Lang, who wanted to record a very high-level CD, Bartók and Prokofiev, with Lang Lang and Sir Simon Rattle and the Berlin Philharmonic Orchestra. And then they found another partner, which was RSDW, who were interested in getting a very high-level documentary happening for television broadcast. And with these two elements together, you've got a package that will help everyone involved sell their product in a more effective way. So I think that's a perfect example of how it can work.
How do you use the video content? Do you gauge it as mainly a promotional tool, or are you also interested in selling it as is, as a standalone product? I know that there is always a difference, and there's always a discussion what is more valuable, and that is potentially linked if you compare a record company's turnover in percentage, a percentage of audio only and video. Can you talk about it a little bit?
Well, first of all, I don't want to exclude any way to to use that footage. So if we do something, we want to have all the rights on working on the material, on the footage, because first of all, it's worth it. It's so good, I hope, that we can use it in many ways. But to come back to your question on the income streams, DVD sales are very weak these days. I mean, it's really problematic. It's also very funny that these days the customer still hasn't decided whether he wants to have a DVD or a Blu-ray. So we still have to do both, which is actually stupid. But when I sit in the office and I have some people coming in, I say, do you know this new film we just produced here with, let's stick to the example Lang Lang. I have the Blu-ray on Blu-ray on my desk. I give it to him or her, and she says, do you have a DVD? Because I don't have a Blu-ray player. Like, well, you're in the business for 20 years. You don't have a Blu-ray player. And myself, I don't have one either. So, and... but it's funny. I mean, we waste so much money because we have to produce these two products. That's the first part, which I don't like about this business, that we can't really say, okay, Blu-ray is, that's it, and let's get rid of the DVD. But on the other hand, there are DVDs and Blu-rays, or let's say video-to-own products that are very successful. Most of them are live broadcast or live concerts, filmed, and opera productions. That's basically, the documentaries are much weaker, and but they are also a very important part because they are always linked to an audio product that we sell. And then we hope, and that is also the aim at each production from day one, that we want this not only to be a DVD, that is like the last that we want this to be out in cinemas, on television, on in the internet, wherever you can, to tell the story about the album and to promote the artist and the album. So the DVD sales is a small part, unfortunately.
Right. So one issue is always distribution, television distribution, for example, and to link the release dates of a record or a DVD from your side, for example, with broadcast dates. That's always problematic because TV stations, official broadcasters work on a different schedule sometimes, and it's hard to kind of link those together. I wanted to ask Johnny Walker, because you work a lot with recording, big recording artists and record companies. In America, does it differ, or is it easier to kind of work together and link certain efforts, money-wise and also, let's say, planning-wise and strategy-wise?
If it's a known artist with the new product, so that you saw the artist doing one or two of their songs on the morning shows, so the broadcast in a sense was the end of the rollout. Too often now we've been dropped, so that the broadcast is standing alone. There's no backup from any other organization to help us, and you find that no one knows that there's that the show comes and goes and there's no interest.
But that's a real.
In our world, it's still much better. We had huge success with Lady Gaga and Tony Bennett, but with Lady Gaga and Tony Bennett, they both worked like dogs and were constantly everywhere, and are still doing that. So,
but I think we hit a real problem now, because if we argue that, let's say, the classical, the pop side of it is somewhat more vital because it has a buyer's market. The classical side of it has practically limited buyer's market and needs more streamlined efforts between the partners. But if I hear now that even that, which is basically does not necessarily have to do with a lot of money, already doesn't work. That is something that really needs to be addressed here, I think.
and the classical market used to be well served by the print press, but now there's no print press anymore to help you out, at least in the United States.
Well, and if there's a press, it's just irrelevant. I mean, there's lots. I mean, just Google one of the classical artists. You'll find news about them every day. But if you get the greatest reviews in the UK, in the US, I mean, still New York Times. They have people working on classical music, and I don't know if they are if they're full-time working there or not. But there's lots of stuff on the New York Times about our music. But still, it doesn't mean anything in the US. So I think timing-wise, you said that what used to be a record company many years ago, I think the record companies have changed. Definitely, they had to change. But in classical, you still, I mean, we lack the hits. We don't have radio hits. We don't have a new song that goes viral on radio and internet and anything. Then the artist is introduced, and then everybody else can jump on. We have to be with a new record that we do, whatever it is. We have to be the ones who try to find partners before we even start working on the album, because we know what it will sound like, kind of. If you have a soprano who will sing arias, you will kind of know where this is going. But we need a bigger story around it to make it interesting. It's not a new hit that people find just on the radio next morning and say, well, this is cool, what's that? If you work on an artist with classical music, you have to have partners before you start working on the album that want to be involved in the whole project. This is why probably we come to people like you and say, hey, do you want to be involved, even though it's not on BBC Breakfast this morning? It's a different schedule that we have to work on, I think.
Stephanie.
I think from a journalist point of view, what's a very good marketing instrument when it comes to marketing a product of any kind is to have a story. That's probably what you mean. I mean, that's what we're looking for in journalism every day. To have a story that goes with the product is extremely helpful. So I think that's quite sad, being a fan of classical music myself, but it's not enough to have a extremely high level recording of something. Having two artists working together that are, just extremely good at what they do. I think, sadly enough, in a way, there's always the need to have some sort of story behind it. And, like, for example, we had a production called Schumann at Pier 2, where we were there when the conductor Paavo Järvi, together with the Bremer Kammerphilharmonie, played the Schumann symphonies on 4 consecutive evenings. And we were there when they rehearsed and when they were telling us about the music. But it wouldn't have been enough to just have this great conductor and this orchestra doing this interesting program. It had to be sort of the additional stress of them having it done on 4 consecutive evenings. So there had to be a story there in order to sell it, especially sell it to my colleagues at the press, at the media.
Also, let's bash the artists a little bit in classical, because we had this great example from Tony Bennett and Lady Gaga, of course. Are the classical artists too lazy when it comes to promotion?
I love that example. First, I have to go back to the story once, because sometimes the sheer quality of the recording is the story, but that is a story that's quite tougher to tell, especially in mass media. So we're always going for the quality is the priority, and then we find a story around it. And sometimes the quality is the story. We get this crazy Greek conductor in Russia, where we do opera recordings, complete opera recordings. Nobody does that anymore. It's just not affordable. But with this guy, we go into a studio and he records 13 hours a day with his own orchestra. Violinist standing, by the way, all the time. So this Theodor Korenzis is his name. This story is so crazy, and it's so good. So people love to hear more about the story, but as soon as I play them one bar, they know the reason why we're doing it. The reason is not the story. The reason is the sheer quality of the music. But going back to Lady Gaga and Tony Bennett, yes, they were working like dogs, as you said. But I think classical artists, they woke up. They saw that they can't survive in that business anymore if they just play their music and move on. They have to work as well in a way as pop stars do. Not all of them do, but then they won't be successful anymore. And Tony Bennett, Lady Gaga, I think, entered last year number 12 in the German pop charts, and Jonas Kaufmann, our record, entered on number 11 in the German pop charts. So you see, we're going in the same way. We adopt and the artists adopt, but somebody like Jonas, he needs to rest his voice 1 or 2 days a week. He can't go on BBC Breakfast in the morning and sing, and then travel from Manchester to Covent Garden and sing a 3-hour opera, and then go next morning to Scandinavia for promotion. So he needs more time to rest his voice, otherwise he wouldn't have that career and that long-lasting career. But still, talking about marketing again, we try to go into the same direction, use the right tools, but sometimes we are not as powerful as pop artists are, because we just, they need more rest.
Hazel, before you go, Hazel, before you go, I have a question for you. You as a distributor for many, many years, what kind of obstacles did you discover in the process when it comes to, strategize a plan for a television program which involves major artists or not so major artists? Tell us a bit.
You're in the middle. As a distributor, you're in the middle, I think, of the picture, because you're working with the production team who have their dates of recording, and then you've got to work with the people who own the artists, like the record companies for sure, and then you're working with the broadcasters like Johnny, when you say, when can we actually get the transmission, because it's got to all fit in. And it is a picture, because what is very clear is that we all need to work together, otherwise we don't find... I'm looking forward to how we get on to the new world where we'll have video on demand, so we'll be able to coordinate things and pass people on to other things through the smart TVs and say, here is a chance to see lots of things. It's not just necessarily what is scheduled in the public service broadcasting. There's new avenues to go down, and certainly with social media, we need all of those things really help us to see the product. But the difficulty, sorry, I'm talking too much, but
no.
The difficulty is there's so many programs here. We've seen so many programs being recorded, but some of them are being recorded for one transmission once, and there's nowhere to put them because there aren't any slots to put them in.
That's why I said in the beginning.
Question, isn't it?
No, that's why I said in the beginning, 10% of them can perform better.
Yeah.
So, do we have a communication problem? Who is here? Producers. Producers, hands up. Hands up. You're the only one? Ah, nice. So I wanna ask you, what is your wish list when it comes to partnerships and a streamlined approach? I use the word streamlined because English is not my mother language. But what would be your wish list to enhance the possibilities? No. No, Johnny, how's it? Go ahead.
Wish list.
It's long, I'm sure.
Well, first, getting back to the artist, the first thing you need with an artist is an artist that has a personality which immediately connects to an audience. And then that artist really needs to focus on specific projects. If I put $500,000 into something, I expect the artist to help out. And unfortunately, in classical music, too often they do not. And it's because sometimes maybe they're doing too many things instead of focusing.
It's also a management problem. Classical artist management is...
We agree.
I'm not saying it.
But it's not that it can't happen, because there were in America there were wonderful examples of great artists who also connected with a general audience. Certainly no better than Pavarotti was, and here was a guy who sang every night at the Met, but then also appeared on Johnny Carson and all the other big talk shows. And we get up early in the morning, believe it or not, and do the early morning shows. So, it exists, but often the classical artist just is not interested. And many of the arts organizations which are sponsoring them, the symphonies and the opera companies, excluding the Met, because they do a very good job, are not helpful. They're moving on with their season, and you feel a little bit like you've been left out in the cold.
Is there anybody here from the management side, artist management or performing arts companies? Performing, yes, yes. I want to ask you, yes, again, America, which is good. The American side is very effective. Please introduce yourself to the audience and tell us what you do with the San Francisco Symphony, I suppose.
San Francisco Opera.
Opera, I'm sorry.
Right.
Stupid.
The San Francisco Opera is a little unusual, I think, that we have our own media suite, and our interest is really kind of self-preservation. So we're, as an institution, we're very interested in getting our product outside of the Opera House. We're very interested in streaming, we're interested in broadcast, we're interested in DVD, Blu-ray, any way to get the San Francisco brand outside of the Opera House. So we're not, as Johnny's saying, we don't really have strategy to help an artist with their career. Our interest with our digital program is to help the company.
Right, and that is one of the problems, not problems, but one of the issues we have in front of us. The performing arts companies want to promote their brand. A TV station wants to make the station brand successful through a program. Huh? The record companies, it seems to me, they're working much more on an individual strategized basis from release to release. So I think, and the distributor and the management, they want to book, they want to book their artists because they're getting a 25%, fee out of it. And when you look at that landscape, that's where the problems are actually there, because the artists don't get paid much for media work these days, and so they don't like to be, they don't see themselves as recording artists or artists in the media. They get their money from the stage.
Let me jump in for a second, because I have to disagree on that point that artists don't want to be in promotion, in the promotion business, because I haven't signed an artist in the last 10 years who doesn't want to do promotion. I mean, there's artists who want to, as soon as they have reached a certain level, they want to do less, and then it's our job to find the right slots and do as much as we can. But artists these days really put the record company under pressure to say, I want more PR. I was in France, nothing was happening. I was in the UK, I just had one interview. What's going on, guys? I'm like, oh, okay, we got to do this. I mean, we really have the strongest conversations with artists we have on PR, because they expect record companies and they expect other people to push them somewhere. And they're not, they know that they get their money from playing every night. They don't get their money from us, but they use record companies as their PR source, kind of. So I'm surprised to hear that you think that artists don't want to be in PR, and I doubt that Pavarotti was singing every night at the Met in the morning, also on TV shows. I know he was a hardworking man, but if you take an example of, let's go back from, opera singers is a world by itself, but if you look at someone like Lang Lang, for example, he's really, he's working day and night on his PR as well. So I think there's lots of great examples of younger artists who do want to be in the media, and they know that it's good for them, I hope.
So really quick on, any questions? Any questions? So far, any questions? No questions? Come on. Really? Okay, then I want to touch on one issue. So classical advertising, like ads and print, let's touch on that real quick. That is a real budgetary issue, right? And for you, I think it's complicated because you're broadcasting outside of your home country. But I can ask Martina Mattig. Martina Mattig of Dreisat is here, nice. Is Dreisat doing classical advertising, like in print media, to promote a time slot or a program or a special music program?
We do ads in our internet and sometimes in the credit roll, if we get it allowed by our colleagues from the clearances. It's not that easy. We would love to do much more and to cooperate much more. It's very important in our times that we come together and make the best out of the not easy situation for our classical area. And yeah, I hope it will change a little bit so that we can do more, so that we get more broadcasted and everybody gets a bigger part of the cake.
Right. You're doing print. You're doing print and TV advertising and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, and I have to say I hate both of it because it's so much money, and there would be so many other ways to to promote your product than just print for one day, 4-color. Somewhere people from the way we work. This is maybe interesting for somebody. The way we work, we have a label. We do sign artists. We do produce records, and then there's people all around the world. Basically, in each territory, there's Sony Music affiliates, as we call them, and they do the marketing in the country because they know best what's working in Germany. They know best what's working in France because I can't tell the French guy how to use his marketing budget best to promote the album. But what I get back often, I mean, I see all these marketing plans, I see all the promotion plans, but there's still so much money going into print advertisement, and I'm trying to push them to get out of that and to try to use the money in a more creative way and maybe more efficient way than just doing print advertising. But there's always reasons to do these print ads, because if we don't do these print ads, then these classical music magazines will die one day. This is always the answer you get. And then if you have a personal relationship to the editor, it's hard to say no. It's hard to pull out of that. But there might be a middle way. So I think we're pretty good these days also to use money in the internet, and sometimes you're surprised what you can do with €250 on a global basis. It amazes me every day. But anyway, yes, we are still in print ads, and we do also do television ads, and especially in Germany, they're very, very expensive. UK, France, it's a different picture. But yes, we spend our money there, definitely.
Who is here from the artist management side? Artist management.
Still no one.
Don't hide. Who is here from the artist management? Yeah. Come forward, I have a question. That's okay. Because you're working with young artists. You have a small
boutique agency in Vienna.
Yeah, boutique agency, as they call it.
Yes.
And please introduce yourself and what you do, and then I want to hear from you what the challenges are for you. The challenges, managing a young artist and get him or her out to the media.
First of all, I started a management agency about 7 years ago. I work for opera singers primarily, young talents, trying to promote them and build up their careers. Yeah, it's very challenging. I also started a streaming platform a couple years ago to start documenting the work of my artists and getting them some audiovisual material to help promote them. And yeah, the challenges are building careers today. It's extremely difficult. There's very little loyalty in the houses. The theaters and wanting to promote their own brands, they're less and less caring about building up the future of the opera stars. And they'd rather work with the young, unknown talents who are good looking, and so a lot of singers who are in mid-careers find that they're not getting the engagements that they should have. Yeah, it's a lot of convincing, I'm dealing with a lot of casting directors who don't necessarily understand voices, and the fees are very, very low for young singers, and they're getting lower and lower.
And I can imagine for a manager, because we were talking management and we were talking artists' efforts and artists' stamina and the desire to get out there and promote herself or himself. I'm sure you are, if you're a smaller, young agency with young artists, you are struggling to get the money. And as the money is not coming from the recording side, you try to get them booked, and try to get them in as a first step, rather than promote them via video, television, the internet, and stuff like that. Or does it go together for you?
I'm trying to get them engagements, first of all, because you have to build up their CV in the right houses so that the important artistic directors will take notice of them. Yeah, I mean, actually, my young artists would love to have PR. They would do anything, actually. So they do. Oh, they love. Yeah, I have to disagree because the young artists they're all over Facebook. They're constantly posting selfies. They love to be on Facebook. And I mean, I have a Facebook page for my agency, and it's not really important from the point of view of informing artistic directors, but it's good because the artists want to see themselves.
By the way, lots of the casting that I've been told from operas, they go via YouTube these days before you invite someone coming over.
You must be. Yeah, that's the thing. You have to have material today. You have to have sound files, or you have to have. That's how artistic directors choose who they're going to invite to an audition. You must have audiovisual material. I mean, not only audiovisual or just regular audio files. I have some artists who don't have materials, and it's impossible to even get them auditions. It's very difficult. And yeah, I've had singers who have been casted just based on YouTube. I mean, in that sense, the business has completely changed. Right. I mean, with the internet, it's you can commute with the artistic directors and anywhere in the world. Actually, so in that sense, it's gotten easier, but then you're also competing with millions of agents everywhere. So it makes it also presents its challenges.
Any comments? Not questions, but comments. Up till now. Did we cover everything?
Who moved the marketing budget?
Who moved it? Yeah. It's not, yeah. Yeah, sure. Go ahead, go ahead. You were hiding, so I didn't see you. Hold on. You get a mic. Okay. You get a mic.
Sorry, I'm Erwin from Harmoniamundi, and we are part in the same boat like Sony. However, we are an independent company. But I mean, as a marketing budget, I would define it, rather than money, I would define it as quality and time and relationship that we have. So quality, you addressed, this is the basic of our work, and then I mean, it's the time we use, and if it doesn't start with a recording of. It starts way before in communicating a project with the agents and with the press, and inviting them when it comes to recording the journalists to join the recording or join just a performance of what's going to be recorded, to get them in the boat and to get them informed, to spread out news constantly. And then it's the relationships. I mean, I do partly disagree to what you said in terms of the what we can do with printed media or with daily press. So we do see an impact still on, and quite a good impact on sales if there is a review on a daily print press like Süddeutsche or FAZ, which of course we can't afford to place ads there, but it's the relationships of our press officers that go there, that have, and this is not a one-way thing. It's really a synergy, and when it comes to combine all the different interests of the opera houses, of the impresarios, of the agents, it's really the time to bring that project together and to get everyone to the point to see his interest realized. And then at the very point the record is out and the tour is there and the press is there, and then you still have the possibility to generate sales. However, the project must be one that's got potential, and that's again the basis. And in terms of the printed ads, I would say it's a kind of retrospective tool. We place ads to buy review space, which we again use to promote our artists, and which help, of course, also the agents. But it's not something to drive sales, of course.
May I comment? I think that I'm in an interesting position because in our department we're sort of on the giving and on the receiving end, because we produce our own products that we want to promote and market. And I always find, or we found that placing our products in the press in the form of having the director giving an interview or being on radio with part of the production team, or we can be, if the story is right, our own marketing instrument. Say if we've got a big documentary that's a story, where there's a story to tell, we might if the journalistic sort of point of view is right, make a film about it and broadcast it in one of our culture TV shows. So that's very lucky there, of course. But, you know, I think that press is a very important instrument, and not just print or broadcast is a very important instrument. And the way to get in there, again, is, I think, to have a really good story. Because when I say I'm also on the receiving end, I work for a daily television TV show that's called Euromax, that does sort of a daily view on the best of European culture, and classical music and artists that perform are, of course, part of our daily program. And we get so many offers by management and companies that want to put forward their artists, and it's very hard for us often to decide if artists are not well known, whom to portray or whom to look at and whom to work with. And the way that we decide if there's no, you know, big CV to look at is, of course, what sort of story does this young artist bring? What could be interesting to our viewers on top of the quality of the work of the artist?
I didn't want to say that print is irrelevant completely. I mean, Süddeutsche Zeitung and Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung, I mean, if you have the full page review, of course, it you know, it does the trick. Yeah, it moves the needle a bit, and you can build on that for sure. But on a global basis, if you collect, and that's what we do sometimes, we collect the best reviews, and we get like something like this, and we think, hey, this must be a bestseller, and it's just not, it doesn't reflect the numbers anymore, so you have to do a lot more. And I mean, the record companies, we can't, you know, we can't support something like Süddeutsche Zeitungsverlag or FAZ Verlag to make them survive. I mean, that's not what we are there for. So I'm more talking about the, you know, the classical music magazines, the geek magazines. You know, these are, look at the circulation. It's so low these days, but they're well done. I mean, I love reading them, but my friends don't. So you know, this is it's a very small audience we talk to, and so print ads is definitely not the future, but it's part of our job.
Johnny?
Really generated sales? Can you give us any examples of things that went, oh, whoa?
Oh, yeah, there's, maybe I can, well, there's two examples. There's one small example, which was very surprising to me. It was a Mad About Mozart campaign. That's what we called it. It was Lang Lang going mad about Mozart. And he asked, are you mad about Mozart too? And it was simply a little splash page with Lang Lang inviting everyone to send in, I think, a video or a statement or whatever that shows us how crazy this guy is about Mozart too. And there were, I don't know the numbers, but it was huge. And the prize was to spend a weekend with Lang Lang in Vienna, with a tour through Vienna, guided by Lang Lang, and you go to the Mozart house and whatever. So that was, I've seen that before. But this time it really had a big impact, also because print media jumped in on that. And The Guardian and Le Monde, and in Italy there was a law that didn't allow them to do that. But there's different great conservative newspapers who wanted to be partner. And that was a very cool thing. So we had a big, you know, impact on that. And the other new thing, which is not that new anymore, but especially in Germany and France, they did that also a couple of years ago. Started that idea that TV stations, the private TV stations, they become JV partners with a record company, and you offer them a product, and then you kind of make the 50-50 split, and they promote it and promote it and promote it. This is when you get these 90-second TV spots on ProSieben or Sat.1 on music. That is a JV between record companies and TV stations, and that's been done now too often. But at the beginning, we had huge success with that, with people who were actually really nearly unknown. With the good video, with the right song, it boosted them to become stars in a couple of weeks, because then TV had kind of the radio, the radio way. It was one of the examples was I was still working for a different company then. It was Melody Gardot, who was basically unknown in Germany. And with one very cool video and with one deal with ProSieben Sat.1, she made it up to more than platinum in a couple of weeks.
Anything else?
But therefore, sorry to say that, but therefore you need the right video material. You can't just go there with a classical artist. Hey, I look good. I want to be on that ProSieben media deal. Well, you need to spend 2 days filming, and we need a big budget to film there. We did that also with Max Rabe later on. It was a huge success as well. Max Rabe worked, I think, two days, day and night, to shoot that video that would then be the clip, or parts of it would be that clip. If the quality of that clip would be low, there wouldn't be any success at all. So there's an understanding, I think, for the artists and also budgets from the record company to be put into video again. And this video could be also, I mean, they did it now again. They shot a concert, and I think it's on television, and then you take the trailer out of that, you go back to ProSieben. So the video is much more than just a filmed concert. It is a marketing tool itself, and that can be used in many, many, many ways.
Or if you want to have the high quality video material, but you don't have the huge budget, and that's my point again, you find yourself the story and find a partner in the broadcasting industry who can then produce a high quality film about a high quality story or event, and that can then benefit both partners, because the artist can use the video material in other contexts and the broadcaster has a good film to broadcast.
That would be the optimum. Any other questions and comments? Because otherwise, if you feel that we have given you a lot of input, then I want to close it and say thank you to Stephanie and to Per for coming this afternoon, and we are at your disposal if you have any further one-on-one questions.